The night the silence broke, no one else was in the office to hear it, but if anyone had been there, they would have felt it too. The rain hit the windows of the Seattle skyline like restless fingers. Sharp and sudden, the kind of rain that made the city feel awake even after dark. Inside the glass building, most lights were already off. Desks were empty. Chairs were pushed in. The workday was supposed to be over, but Emily Carter was still there. She sat at her desk on the third floor, eyes fixed on her laptop screen, jaw tight with focus. A client presentation had gone wrong earlier that afternoon, and tomorrow morning it needed to be perfect. She could have gone home, but she didn't. She rarely did when something mattered. Across the long shared table, Daniel Brooks was still. There too, he hadn't planned to stay late. He had finished his work an hour ago, yet he remained, scrolling slowly, pretending to review notes he already knew by heart. The truth was simple and dangerous at the same time. He didn't want to leave before she did. Emily and Daniel had worked together for nearly 2 years at a mid-sized marketing firm that handled national brands across the U.S. and Canada. There, days followed a steady rhythm: meetings, emails, deadlines, quiet concentration. They were known as dependable, professional, easy to work with. No one ever called them close. They didn't laugh loudly together. They didn't share inside jokes. They didn't grab lunch alone or linger in the hallway. From the outside, they were just two coworkers who happened to sit near each other. But something lived in the space between them every morning. Emily arrived at exactly 8:12 a.m. She liked being early, liked the calm before the office filled. She always glanced at Daniel's chair before sitting down. If it was empty, she felt oddly unsettled. If he was already there, focused and quiet. Her shoulders relaxed without her noticing. Daniel noticed everything. He noticed how Emily tucked her hair behind her ear when she concentrated, how she pressed her lips together when she was nervous, how she reread emails twice before sending them. He noticed her kindness too, the way she helped new hires without being asked, the way she stayed calm when others panicked. He never said any of it. They spoke only when work required it. "Can you review this? Client call at 3. Thanks, I'll update it." Short, clean, safe. Emily told herself she liked it that way. She had learned to keep her heart protected. Past relationships had taught her that feelings could make smart women careless. Work was where she felt in control. Daniel told himself the same thing. He believed that some lines once crossed could not be uncrossed. He valued his reputation. He valued peace. And yet every day, the silence grew heavier. That evening, the office felt different. The rain grew louder as the sky darkened early. The building's air system hummed softly. Emily leaned back in her chair and rubbed her eyes. She glanced at the time, 7:48 p.m. She sighed. "I should have fixed this earlier," she whispered to herself. Daniel heard her. He looked up from his screen, his instinct pulling him toward her voice. For a moment, he considered speaking. Just a simple offer of help. But the familiar hesitation held him back. They stayed quiet. Minutes passed. Then the lights flickered once. Twice. Emily froze. The screens went dark. The hum stopped. The entire floor fell into sudden, unnatural stillness. "Are you kidding me?" Emily said softly, more tired than angry. Emergency lights clicked on, dim and yellow, casting long shadows across empty desks. The storm outside seemed louder now, like it was pressing closer. Daniel stood up without thinking. This time, he didn't stop himself. He walked toward her desk, footsteps slow, measured. His heart beat faster with every step. He told himself he was just checking if she was okay, nothing more. He stopped beside her. Emily looked up, surprised. They were closer than usual, close enough to feel each other's presence, close enough to notice small details. She saw the tension in his shoulders, the seriousness in his eyes. Before she could speak, he did. "Emily," he said it quietly. Not like a coworker calling across a room. Not like a question. It's like something he had been holding back for a long way. Time. The sound of her name spoken that way caught her off guard. She felt it in her chest first, then her hands. Her breath stalled for a second before she recovered. "Yes," she asked. Daniel didn't answer right away. The moment stretched, fragile and full. "I just wanted to make sure you're okay," he said finally, his voice calm but honest. She nodded. "I'm fine, just bad timing." He gave a small smile. "Seems like the universe has a sense of humor." She almost laughed. Almost. They stood there, the storm outside filling the silence. Emily noticed how close he was, how different it felt without screens or noise between them. For once, there was nothing to distract them from the truth they had both avoided. Daniel felt it too. He realized how rare this moment was. No meetings. No coworkers, no excuses. Just two people and a choice. He didn't cross the line, but he didn't step back either. "You work too hard," he said gently. Emily shrugged. "Someone has to." He hesitated, then added, "You don't have to do everything alone." The words stayed with her. She looked at him more carefully now. She saw the concern in his expression, the sincerity that had always been there, hidden behind professionalism. "Thank you," she said. "That means more than you know." They both knew she wasn't talking only about the presentation. The power stayed out longer than expected. A building alert chimed on their phones, advising employees to log off and head home once systems returned. Emily gathered her things. Daniel waited, giving her space but staying close enough to walk together. As they headed toward the elevators, the silence returned, but it felt different now. Not empty. Not tense. Charged. At the elevator doors, Emily paused. "Daniel," she said. He turned to her. "I'm glad you stayed," she said simply. He nodded. "Me too." The doors opened. They stepped inside, standing side by side, hands inches apart but not touching. The ride down felt longer than usual. When the doors opened again, they walked out into the lobby. The rain-soaked night waiting beyond the glass. Outside, the city glowed with streetlights and reflections. Cars passed. People hurried under umbrellas. Life went on, but something had shifted. As they stepped into the rain, Daniel glanced at Emily, and for the first time, he didn't look away. The silence between them wasn't gone, but it had finally spoken, and neither of them would forget the way it started with a storm. A power outage, and a whisper that changed everything. The moment she heard her name spoken like that, Emily's heart skipped in a way she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. The office was empty, the storm outside still tapping against the windows like it had its own rhythm, and for the first time all the walls she had built around herself seemed to tremble. Daniel Brooks was standing just a few feet away, calm, steady, but somehow closer than he had ever been. His voice had broken the barrier they had maintained for 2 years. A single word carrying weight that neither of them had admitted aloud. "Emily," he said again, quieter this time, as if testing the air between them, as if asking permission to exist in that space. She swallowed hard, trying to remind herself that he was just a coworker, that they were supposed to be professional, that feelings at work were dangerous. But the sound of her name, spoken with such care, had awakened something she couldn't ignore. Her eyes met his, and suddenly the world outside the office, the rain, the city, the cold night faded into background noise. She wanted to say something clever, something that would maintain the professional barrier, but no words came. Instead, she felt the truth she had buried for years rising up, undeniable. "Yes," she finally whispered, her voice steady but soft, carrying a weight of expectation she could no longer hide. Daniel's eyes softened. There was no rush, no pressure, only honesty, the kind that comes after years of quiet observation and longing. "I've wanted to say your name like that for a long time," he admitted. Each word seemed to stretch across the room, filling the silence with the emotions they had both denied. Emily's chest tightened, and for a moment she felt dizzy with the intensity of the shared recognition. The realization that their silence had not been emptiness, had been holding space for something neither had dared to name. She stood slowly, feeling the small tremor of nervous excitement in her hands. The distance between them was still there, the boundaries of respect intact, but the air between them had shifted. Something fragile and powerful existed now. Something they could no longer ignore. "We're at work," she said gently, a reminder to herself as much as to him. Her voice carrying the kind of careful composure she had practiced for years. Daniel nodded, acknowledging the boundary without retreating. "I know," he said softly. "That's why I never said anything before. That's why I stayed quiet. I didn't want to ruin what we already had." His honesty was simple, direct, and it hit Emily harder than she expected. The recognition that he had been holding back for her, that he had chosen silence over risk, made the tension they had carried for years feel almost sacred. She studied his face, the way his jaw tightened slightly, the way his eyes searched hers, trying to read her reaction. She realized that for 2 years they had been speaking in a language without words, understanding each other through glances, gestures, and the spaces between their conversations. And now, finally, that language was being translated into words, simple but powerful, carrying more truth than either of them had dared to express before. "I thought I was imagining it," she admitted, her voice breaking slightly as the emotion she had controlled so carefully spilled out. "I thought it was safer to pretend." Daniel took a careful step closer, though still respecting the invisible line between them. "It was safer," he agreed, "but not honest." A pause settled between them, a pause full of unspoken confessions, and shared memories of long afternoons spent side by side, working in perfect silence, noticing each other in ways no one else could. The storm outside became a backdrop to their moment, a reminder that the world could wait while they acknowledged the truth of what had been growing quietly, patiently between them. Emily's lips curved into a small, real smile. "We don't have to change everything," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But maybe we don't have to hide anymore either." Daniel's relief was palpable. He exhaled as if a weight he hadn't realized he carried had been lifted. "One conversation at a time?" he asked almost cautiously. She nodded, a silent agreement passing between them that this was only the beginning, not the end. From that day forward, things were different, though subtle. They still worked at the same table. They still followed the routines of deadlines and meetings. They still maintained a professional demeanor that their colleagues expected. But now, the silence was no longer empty. It was full of possibility, of understanding, of unspoken connection that was no longer confined by fear. They started noticing the small things more intentionally. The way Emily's coffee cup never matched her mood. The way Daniel adjusted his posture slightly when he was thinking of her. Shared glances lasted a fraction longer than before. Hands came dangerously close while passing documents, though neither acted on the impulse immediately. Every small gesture became charged with the awareness of what they both felt, and that charge made each day at the office a quiet thrill. Subtle dance that neither had rehearsed but both understood instinctively. Emily discovered that the anticipation of seeing Daniel each day made the long hours feel lighter. Even mundane tasks seemed to have purpose when he was near. She could feel his attention on her without him needing to speak, a constant awareness that made her heart beat faster, even in moments of silence. Daniel, in turn, realized that he had been silently waiting for someone like Emily for years. Someone whose presence made the ordinary extraordinary, whose laughter, though rare, was like a sudden break of sunlight through clouds. One afternoon, during a particularly quiet meeting, Daniel caught Emily's eye across the conference room. No words passed between them, yet the entire conversation shifted in their private understanding. He smiled slightly, and she returned it, a micro-expression that no one else noticed but carried the weight of 2 years of unspoken emotions. The tension that had been there before had transformed into a gentle intimacy, the kind that could coexist with professional boundaries, the kind that made every small shared moment feel monumental. Even after work, Their connection persisted. Text messages were polite, professional, but tinged with a warmth that was impossible to ignore. A quick check-in about a project could suddenly feel personal. A note of thanks became a reminder of the silent bond they had nurtured in the office. Every interaction, no matter how minor, became a thread weaving them closer together, making the invisible visible in ways that were subtle yet undeniable. The city of Seattle outside seemed to echo their new reality. Rain-slicked streets reflected, neon lights, the hum of distant traffic, creating a rhythm that matched the quiet intensity of their relationship. They both walked to the parking garage at the same time, their steps in sync without planning it. Small gestures, a hand brushing against a shoulder, a shared laugh at an inside joke no one else knew became markers of a connection that was growing stronger by the day. Emily realized that she had been waiting for this moment longer than she knew. The quiet companionship, the mutual respect, the restrained longing, all of it had been preparing her for a choice. To stay in the safety of silence, or to embrace the risk of being seen fully and without reservation. Daniel, equally aware, felt the same tension, a pull toward honesty that was irresistible. The whispers of their hearts had become too loud to ignore, and now, in each other's presence, they could no longer pretend that work was the only thing keeping them apart. One evening, as the office emptied and the rain began again, Emily lingered by her desk, waiting for Daniel to finish his final tasks. When he finally joined her to leave, the conversation was casual, professional. But underneath it flowed a current of emotion neither could fully articulate. They walked side by side through the lobby, the city lights reflecting in puddles outside. Each step a testament to the understanding that had finally surfaced after years of silent longing. And then, just before stepping into the elevator, Daniel did something small but significant. He leaned slightly closer and, without speaking, let his gaze linger on her. Emily noticed, and her chest tightened with recognition. No words were necessary. This was their moment. A confirmation that the bond they had nurtured in silence was now acknowledged. Visible in every subtle gesture, every shared glance, every breath that passed between them. The elevator doors closed, and for the ride down, the silence was different. It was no longer a barrier, but a shared space, a canvas on which they could paint the beginnings of something new. Neither spoke, but neither needed to. The connection that had grown over years of quiet observation had finally found a voice in their actions, in their presence, in the shared understanding that they were no longer alone in feeling what they had always known. When the doors opened again and the wet city awaited outside, Emily and Daniel stepped forward together. The rain fell softly around them, the streets alive with lights and movement. Yet nothing outside could diminish the intensity of what had begun. For the first time, their silence was not emptiness, but promise. Not absence, but anticipation. And, as they walked into the night, side by side, each knew that the journey had only just begun. That the whispers of their hearts would continue to guide them, shaping every day they spent together. Quietly, carefully, but with a depth of feeling that neither would ever forget.